Hi, Caleb with Brownells here, and in today's video we're going to be covering this AR-15 build, the most recent one. And the interesting thing about this one is that this one is inexpensive, but it doesn't suck. Alright, that's the whole point of this video. Now, I know we've been doing a lot of AR builds and stuff in the past here, I say past, but somewhat recently, and they've all been pretty expensive builds. They've been more of the Gucci build. And I wanted to go in a completely opposite direction. I wanted to do an affordable AR. And, you know, with that, my own personal requirement, even though it's inexpensive, is that it has to be something that I would be willing to, like bet my life on. Something I would use in, like, a home defense type situation, right? So I didn't go with any overly cheap parts that were of questionable quality or origin or anything like that, right? And everything I chose is indeed available at Brownells. I wanted this to be a complete Brownells build, so that was another requirement. All right, so let's just address the elephant in the room. Let's just get it out the way. All right, lower receiver. Lower receiver, I am using an Anderson Manufacturing lower receiver. Now, before you like burn out your fingers on the keyboard, just hear me out, okay? Please hear me out. All right, so rewind back to like 2012-ish, whenever I first started using Anderson receivers, because I was getting them at the time. I was ordering them at like 25 bucks a pop through like my personal FFL back in the day. So I bought a ridiculous amount of them and built a bunch of guns on them. And I've never had a single issue with an Anderson lower receiver. Now, because they're cheap, there are a lot of them out there. And typically the reason why Anderson lowers get a bad rap is because you have people that are building guns. They're doing their own home builds and whatnot. And whenever something goes wrong with that build, typically they'll blame that lower receiver because that's like the cheapest part on their gun. And that's kind of where they get a bad rap from in general. I know they go by the fun little name Poverty Pony, which is, you know, it's funny. But honestly, Anderson lowers, for me, honestly, never had a bad issue with them. They're not that bad. Chances are, if you see somebody post something negative about them, they have absolutely no personal experience with them, and they're just regurgitating something they read somewhere else, and it ended up in like a snowball type effect. Either that, or they are just like one of the internet keyboard trolls that can't even legally own a firearm anyways. But that's a whole nother thing. Let's continue. Let's keep moving. We got the Anderson out of the way. I like Anderson. If you don't, I don't care. Still, please hit the like button. Anywho, let's go. Let's just start from let's do it tip to butt. All right. So starting at the muzzle end here. The actual muzzle brake we're using, this is a Midwest Industries. I forget the technical like even name of it, but this is like the main one they make for the AR-15. And the reason I chose this one is because it is very inexpensive. I'm not going to be naming any prices here in the video because those change all the time, and there's different deals and stuff that make things cheaper. But with that being said, I'll tell you how much this build costs at the end of the video. All right, so So this thing right here is super cheap, and it pretty much deletes recoil, right? The barrel, we're using this 223 Wylde Brownells barrel. This is, it's listed as an A1 barrel, but it's only listed that because it uses a .625 gas journal. It's technically a pencil barrel. So that basically just means it's a lightweight barrel, and it's super affordable, but it's made really well. All right. Moving on from there, let's talk about this handguard. This handguard, is there a logo on that side? There is not. Let me flip it around here. So this handguard, the Breek Arms handguard, the reason I chose it, it's made out of good aluminum, right? It has a good fit and finish on it, and it uses a good barrel nut. So whenever I was picking a handguard, the big thing was the barrel nut. You can definitely get cheaper handguards than this one, and they often will use a very bad attachment method. Like some of those Chinese, like whatever market handguards that just have like these like super cheap cross bolts and like Phillips head screws and stuff. Get that junk out of here. This one uses a beveled locking mechanism that holds on really tight to that handguard. From handguard to barrel nut, I should say. and it's just a really solid product. Upper receiver. This upper receiver we went with, this is an Aero Precision, and Aero just makes good receivers in general. Alright, so Magpul stock. The Magpul stock itself, nothing even comes close to this quality, like in the price range of the Magpul MOE stock. Same thing to be said about the grip and the sights. Like Magpul's just absolutely dominating the market in that price range as far as quality like is equated to that, because they're just really good proven products. I'll hit the bolt carrier group as well. Bolt carrier group is our Brownells Nitride bolt carrier group. Let me actually show it to you instead of just talking about it through the ejection port. Alright, there it is. Really good quality as far as materials and stuff go. And again, like I said, I'm gonna put a full build list on our website that will actually have like the specs and stuff, so that this video is just more of a highlight and it doesn't turn into like a 45-minute video of me just holding an AR-15 and talking about it. Because if it's not already boring yet, it will definitely be boring by the time we reach that point. Okay, so the Optic Sig Romeo 5. This is kind of completely optional for this build. I just wanted to include a good red dot sight that wasn't super expensive. This thing right here I think is like, usually you can find them for around 125 bucks, you know, something like that. And if you do this build, you're looking probably just over 800 bucks, and if you take away the Optic, obviously subtract 125 from that. So obviously you can get cheaper ARs for that amount of money, but they, in my opinion, are nowhere near as good as this one you can build for this price, okay? And here's the deal. I know like plenty of you out there are like, well, I just built my gun from whatever manufacturer, took it out to the field, got 30 rounds through it, it shoots great. That's my like, that's me being you, and as far as my voice goes. But with that being said, that a magazine dump is no way to test a gun, right? Yes, it works, but that doesn't tell you how long it's going to work. And typically when you start using cheaper components, especially for the AR-15, because the AR-15 parts are pretty easy for most manufacturers to make, but what separates your higher quality parts from your lower quality parts is how long they're going to be working, because they're got to be made to a spec, and whenever they're made to or exceeding said spec, they're going to work a lot longer than those parts that are just cranked out as cheap as possible. So that is building an inexpensive AR that doesn't suck. I didn't want to call this building a cheap AR that doesn't suck, because some of you out there you take the term cheap and you kind of refer that to as quality as well. We're just talking about price here. So when I said cheap, like I called this Anderson lower cheap, right? I was just talking about the price, not the quality, okay? Like I said, I've used more than I can count and never had an issue with them. So if you have any questions or comments, you're watching this on YouTube, and maybe you have experience with some of these parts, you want to post your personal opinions on them, anything like that. Maybe you just want to call me dumb for using an Anderson lower. I don't know. This is your platform to do that. So go ahead, leave them down below. If you're watching this on the website, like I said, we're going to have the full build list there for you, so you can see, you know, everything you need to put something like this together. And also, if you need any help with any of this, check out our AR build series. It goes through every single part, or feel free to give us a call on the tech line. We'll be happy to help you out. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.